Hello there, I'm Janetta, and welcome to my April monthly coloring page for my Patreon contributors. This one is called Clover on Wood Grain. As with most of the time when you are drawing flowers, you're going to use a lot of the same shapes. We have these elongated ovals, sometimes they're circles, sometimes they're more of a U or a V just because we're not seeing the complete form because it's hidden behind others. My yard is covered with clover. It's popping out all over, and the roadsides are covered with the red clover, which I absolutely love. It looks like the sidewalks are red carpet. If you take the time to really study flowers and their structure and how they are built, then it makes it really easy when you want to draw them. And what's a clover drawing without adding a 4-leaf clover for good luck? That's what we all look for as a kid, and I'll admit, even still as an adult, when I find a big patch of clover, I always find my eye scanning the area just to see if I can find a 4-leaf. Who doesn't believe in a little bit of luck? I want to talk a little bit about composition of your artwork for a minute. I've filled that bottom right corner with the first elements of the drawing, and now I am moving up to the top left corner. As the clovers on the bottom kind of curve around that bottom corner, I want the ones up here on the top to kind of curve around that top left corner to sort of give a circular motion to the whole composition. Learning to draw is a lot like learning to write, either printing or cursive. We learn to make certain lines and shapes and connect them together so that our eyes read them as words. And when drawing, you do the exact same thing, only you're making them in a way so that your eyes learn to read them as the shapes that you're trying to make. Here I am breaking the picture plane. It is a little element that I really like to add to these coloring pages, just to make them more realistic and add interest to the piece. Now that I've finished the pencil drawing, I am inking over. This is when you can make changes, kind of correct some stray lines if you need to, because all of the pencil will eventually be erased. Here we're touching on line quality and also adding in shading in darker areas to help create depth. This is where we really begin to take our two-dimensional flat drawings and make them appear three-dimensional. With shading and line quality, we start to give our subjects shape and form, which helps them pop off the page. of the clover are variegated to some degree. They have a lighter green and a darker green. And I'm using a very thin micron pen here to add those wispy details in. I want my lines to appear as if they are the same line, just almost as if you've erased them along the center. But of course this is pen, so there is no erasing. But so you want to make sure that when you draw them out from the center and then you go to the edge, that you're meeting them up in some way. Like I said, as if they were actually that one line that you've just disconnected. This also helps give some shape and form to the leaves. Switching over to my Prismacolor brush tip ink pen. I really like using the brush tip just because I can get thick and thin lines with the same pen. Gives you a nice variation in your line quality without having to switch over or color in an area more with your finer point ink pens. And here I am using a finer pointed one just to get inside these small areas between the subjects. It's called the negative space. And I love drawing wood grain. I love the fact that you can just take some simple curved lines, put them close together, put them further apart, even drastically further apart to create the knots in the wood. It kind of mimics the texture. Also, I do have my videos sped up. I don't want it to become too boring as you sit here and watch me draw for an hour and a half. So know that when I'm actually drawing, I'm taking a little bit more time. So if you venture into this and you don't feel like you're drawing at the speed that I appear to be, don't worry, I'm not either. I'll slow it down here in a minute so you can actually see how careful I am and making those lines. And I do have this large open area over on the left side, but I don't want to fill it in with more blossoms or clovers. So we're going to use the wood grain to fill in that area so we don't just have a large blank white area. The wood grain almost acts as a white noise, I guess you would say. It gives this subtle texture, but it doesn't interfere with our main subject of the blossoms and the clover leaves. I've continued to add some shading underneath the blossoms and the leaves so that it helps to pop those elements of the drawing off of the wood grain background. And this time I decided to try my hand at actually coloring one. I'm using some alcohol-based art markers that I purchased off of Amazon. I added a little touch of pink to the blossoms, just because when I do look at the clover blossoms, I see pink in there sometimes. I also used 2 different kinds of green, kind of to accent that highlighted broken area of the leaves that we talked about, giving those 2 tones of green. Thanks so much for watching today and for supporting me on Patreon. You can follow me at Janetta Darley on all social media, or you can visit my website and pick up some of my prints for yourself. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.